Ladies and gentlemen, imagine walking into a room and without saying a single word, making someone's heart race, their eyes lock on you, and their minds silently whisper, "Don't go. Stay right here." This isn't about beauty alone. It's about mastering a presence so magnetic that when you leave, they feel the emptiness. And when you return, they feel the rush. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to make someone crave your presence so deeply they can't stop thinking about you, even in your silence. Imagine walking into a room and instantly changing the atmosphere, not because you spoke, not because you announced yourself, but because your very presence made people turn their heads. This isn't about looks alone. It's about energy, self-respect, and an irresistible magnetic pull that can make a man think, "I want her here. I want her near me. I don't even know why, but I can't stop thinking about her." That's the art of making him crave your presence without saying a single word. Most people think attraction starts with what you say, but the truth is, it starts with what you project before you speak. Your posture tells a story. The way you move, the way you breathe, the way you glance around the room, all of it communicates something powerful. If you carry yourself like you belong everywhere you go, he'll believe you do. Walk with intention, like you're not just passing through life, but actually savoring it. That confidence is intoxicating. The first thing you need to understand is that silence is not empty. Silence, when owned, is rich with meaning. Most people rush to fill it because they're afraid of what someone will think if they don't talk. But a woman who can stand in silence without fidgeting, without nervously glancing at her phone, without apologizing for existing, that woman exudes a quiet power that's impossible to ignore. Your stillness can be louder than a shout. Next, think about your micro-expressions, the way you let your eyes linger just long enough to make someone feel seen, but not so long that it feels desperate. The subtle lift of a smile that hints at warmth but keeps a little mystery. You're not putting on a show, you're letting him see glimpses of the real you in doses he can't get enough of. The key is that you're never performing for him. You're simply living fully in your own skin, and he happens to be lucky enough to witness it. There's something irresistibly attractive about a woman who is self-contained. She doesn't need constant validation because she's already chosen herself. When he senses that your happiness isn't dependent on whether he texts you back or compliments you, you instantly become more intriguing. Neediness is repellent. Self-sufficiency is magnetic. A man craves what he can't easily have, and when you're whole on your own, he will want to be the one who gets to add to your life, not complete it. Your lifestyle should be one that inspires curiosity. If you're constantly developing yourself, pursuing hobbies, learning new skills, exploring new places, you radiate a vibrancy that's impossible to fake. It's not about making your life look perfect on social media. It's about actually having a life so rich and textured that anyone who meets you thinks, "I want to be part of that world." The less you center your world around him, the more he'll want to be in it. Remember, presence isn't about physical proximity, it's about emotional impact. You can be sitting across the room and still be the most present person there if you're engaged with the moment. Put away distractions, look people in the eye, listen when others speak, show interest without losing your own center. A man will crave being around someone who makes him feel more alive, more connected, more understood. The paradox is that why I'll make him crave you by not chasing that craving yourself. Instead of obsessing over how to keep him interested, focus on becoming someone you love being around. When you radiate joy, authenticity, and purpose, you don't need to fight for attention. It comes to you naturally. You become a source of positive energy in his life, and people always return to the places they feel good. Think about your body language when you're around him. Are you subtly leaning in, hanging on every word, signaling with your whole posture that you're captivated by him? Or are you relaxed, grounded, and giving him space to lean toward you? The human brain reads body language faster than words. When you hold yourself with relaxed confidence, you send a subconscious signal that you are not trying to win him. You are allowing him the privilege of winning you. Your scent, your style, your personal rhythm, These are sensory anchors that linger in his mind long after you've left the room. Maybe it's the faint trace of your perfume, the way your laughter sticks in his head, or the distinct cadence of your voice when you finally do speak. He begins to associate you with a certain feeling, and feelings are addictive. When you're gone, he'll want to feel that again. Be unpredictable in the most elegant way, not in games or manipulation, but in the sense that you are not entirely predictable in your routines or responses. If you're always available, always answering immediately, always saying yes, the mystery fades. But if you sometimes take a day to respond because you were genuinely lost in something exciting, or you change up the usual way you connect, you remind him that you have your own current that he's swimming in, not the other way around. When you do interact, make those moments rich, quality over quantity. If you're at an event together, don't cling to him. Give him the gift of missing you even when you're in the same room. Let him watch you light up a conversation with someone else, or see the way you move to the music without needing his approval. You're showing him that your joy is self-generated and he'll want to be part of that spark. The secret is that craving doesn't come from constant exposure. It comes from the spaces in between. Think about your favorite song. You don't listen to it on repeat all day, every day. You enjoy it, and then you step away so that when you hear it again, it feels fresh. Your presence works the same way. If he sees you everywhere, hears from you constantly, he stops missing you. But if you step back, let the air build between moments, he starts to lean forward, wondering when he'll get to experience you again. Most women are afraid to pull back because they think distance will make him forget. But when you've made an emotional imprint, distance doesn't erase it, it intensifies it. The trick is making sure the imprint you leave is one of warmth, value, and depth. That way, when you're not there, he doesn't just remember you, he aches for the feeling he gets around you. And here's the beautiful truth. When you master this, you're not just making one man crave you, you're creating a presence that draws people of all kinds into your orbit. You become magnetic, not because you're trying to be, but because you're deeply aligned with who you are. And that authenticity has a gravitational pull no one can resist. When you step into your own power like this, something subtle yet profound happens. You stop worrying about whether he's thinking of you, and you start enjoying the fact that you know he is, not because you've begged for it, not because you've filled his phone with constant reminders, but because you've made yourself unforgettable in the moments you do give him. You become the rare combination of comfort and challenge, someone who makes him feel good, yet pushes him to be more, simply by being more yourself. One of the most magnetic qualities you can cultivate is playfulness. No T-force, try-hard playfulness, but the kind that comes from genuinely enjoying life. When you laugh at the small absurdities, when you tease in a way that's light yet confident, you show you're not taking yourself or the situation too seriously. Playfulness creates contrast against the heavy, serious energy so many people carry, and contrast is what makes moments stick in someone's mind. If he associates you with lightness and joy, you've given him a mental and emotional oasis he'll want to keep returning to. But being light doesn't mean being shallow. Depth is equally important. Show him you can go from laughter to meaningful conversation without hesitation. Ask questions that go beyond the surface, questions that make him think in ways he hasn't before. Not because you're interrogating him, but because you're genuinely curious. People rarely feel truly seen. And when you're the one who makes him feel seen without judgment, you become more than just attractive, you become significant. At the same time, you must resist the urge to give him all of you at once. Leave some mystery. It's not about being secretive, it's about pacing the revelation of yourself. Just as a great book doesn't give away its ending in the first chapter, you shouldn't lay your entire soul bare on the first few encounters. Share enough to connect, but keep enough back to make him eager for the next page. Humans crave anticipation. Anticipation is the gap between desire and fulfillment, and it's in that gap where attraction grows strongest. Your physical presence can be a weapon in the most graceful way. Notice how you enter a space. Don't rush in. Pause at the doorway. Take in the room. Let your eyes meet a few people's before you move forward. This isn't arrogance. It's a quiet acknowledgement that you belong there. The way you occupy space tells people how they should respond to you. If you shrink, they overlook you. If you expand, not in size, but in confidence, they notice. Then there's the power of touch, not the over-the-top obvious kind, but the kind that's so subtle it lingers in his memory far longer than a grand gesture, a light brush of your hand on his arm when you're making a point, a brief touch on the shoulder when you're passing behind him. These moments create microbursts of connection without demanding anything in return. They're fleeting, but that's why they work, because fleeting moments demand to be remembered. The way you dress and present yourself should be less about what's in fashion and more about what feels like you. Style is a language, and the most compelling speakers of it are the ones who know their own dialect. When you're wearing something that feels like an extension of your personality, it stops being about the clothes and starts being about the energy you give off. He may notice the color, the cut, the way the fabric moves, but what he's really noticing is the confidence that comes from knowing you look and feel like your truest self. And let's not overlook the importance of having your own rhythm. If you're constantly available, constantly rearranging your life to match his, you send the message that your time is less valuable than his. But when you have a life full of commitments, passions, and people you care about, you send a different message, that being with you is a privilege, not an expectation. Scarcity increases value, and the more you live in alignment with your own schedule and priorities, the more he'll want to carve out space in his for you. Confidence also shows in how you handle the moments when you're not the center of attention. If he's in conversation with someone else, do you stand there impatiently waiting for your turn, or do you gracefully engage with others, fully immersed in the moment? The latter shows that you are not reliant on his focus to feel validated. This lack of neediness doesn't make him feel neglected, it makes him admire you more. It's also worth saying that the way you leave a room can be just as impactful as the way you enter it. Don't linger in a way that feels like you're reluctant to go. Leave with the same confidence you entered with, as if you're heading towards something equally wonderful. That creates an echo in his mind. He's left standing there thinking about you, because you left him on a high note rather than fading into the background. In the moments when you do speak, make your words carry weight. Avoid over-explaining yourself. Avoid apologizing unnecessarily. Speak with intention, as if your time and attention are precious resources, because they are. This doesn't mean being cold or distant. It means valuing yourself enough to choose your words thoughtfully. When you speak with purpose, people listen more closely, and when they listen closely, they remember. If you want to deepen the craving, don't just exist in his world. Create moments that feel uniquely yours. Maybe it's the way you introduce him to a hidden cafe you love, or the fact that you always notice tiny details he overlooks, or the habit you have of sending him a song out of the blue that perfectly fits his mood. These little imprints weave you into his experiences in ways he can't replicate with anyone else. He's not just missing a person, he's missing you specifically, because you've shown him flavors of life he can't find anywhere else. Understand too that making him crave your presence is not about being perfect. It's about being human in a way that's magnetic. If you trip, laugh it off. If you don't know something, say so without embarrassment. Authenticity is rare in a world where so many people are performing for approval. When you own your imperfections, you make others feel safe to do the same, and that safety becomes a form of intimacy. Sometimes the most powerful move is to be the one who ends the interaction while it's still peaking. If you're having an incredible conversation, don't drag it on until it loses momentum. Excuse yourself while the energy is still high. That leaves him with a sense of unfinished business. An unfinished business has a way of replaying in someone's mind over and over. Your presence should be like a favorite fragrance, one that lingers in the air after you've gone, subtly but unmistakably. He finds himself thinking about you when he hears a certain laugh across the street, when he passes by a place you once went together, when a song you mentioned comes on unexpectedly. This is how craving builds. Not through constant stimulation, but through moments that embed themselves in the quiet spaces of his life. The truth is, he can't crave what he already feels he fully possesses. This is why it's so important to hold a little back, to maintain a part of yourself that belongs to you and you alone, not in a manipulative way, but in a way that honors the fact that you are a whole, independent person. That sacred part of you becomes the mystery he can't stop wanting to solve. And in the process, he keeps coming back, not because you're withholding, but because you're endlessly worth discovering. When you understand the psychology of craving, you start to see why so many people accidentally sabotage it. Craving doesn't thrive on overexposure. It thrives on a delicate balance between connection and absence. The human brain is wired to notice what's missing more than what's present. When you step back just enough, you create a gap. That gap becomes space for curiosity, for imagination, for longing. It's in that space where he begins to replay your smile, your laugh, the exact way you looked at him. Without realizing it, he starts to fill in the blanks, and in doing so, he invests even more emotionally in the idea of you. Most people think that if they're not constantly reminding someone of their presence, they'll be forgotten. But memory isn't built by repetition alone. It's built by emotional impact. You don't remember every person you saw today, but you remember the one who made you feel something unique. This is why your goal should never be to simply stay on his radar. Your goal is to leave an impression so vivid that you live in his mind without needing to force it. The strongest cravings aren't born from logic, they're born from an emotional association. If every time he's around you, he feels a mix of excitement, peace, and inspiration, he won't just like you, he'll seek out that feeling. People are drawn back to the environments and relationships where they felt most alive. Your presence becomes less about you as a person and more about the emotional state you create for him, which is far more powerful than trying to win him with constant attention or flattery. One way to make this happen is to be fully present in each interaction. This means putting away distractions, locking in when he speaks, and responding not just to his words, but to his energy. When you're truly present, you notice subtleties, hesitations, sparks of enthusiasm, fleeting glances that others miss. And when you respond to those subtleties with authenticity, you create a moment that feels deeply personal. He may not even be able to articulate why he feels closer to you, but he will. Another element in the psychology of craving is unpredictability. Humans are wired to pay attention to what they can't easily predict. If every time you see him, your mood, conversation, and energy are identical, there's no novelty. Novelty sparks dopamine, and dopamine fuels desire. This doesn't mean being inconsistent in your values or reliability. It means having different layers of yourself that show up in different moments. Sometimes you're playful and teasing, other times grounded and reflective. Sometimes you surprise him with an insight, other times with a mischievous smile. This variation keeps him engaged because he doesn't know exactly what's coming next, but he knows he wants to find out. It's also crucial to understand that craving grows when he feels there's still or of you to explore. This is why revealing yourself in layers is so effective. If you give away every story, every belief, every quirk in the first few conversations, he's already reached the end of the map. But if each interaction reveals something new, a talent, a perspective, a hidden interest, you create the sense that your depth is endless. That sense of endlessness is intoxicating. Scarcity plays a role here too. Not scarcity in the manipulative sense of pretending you're unavailable just to provoke a reaction, but the natural scarcity that comes from having a full, meaningful life. When you're selective about how and when you share your time, it forces him to value those moments more. If every encounter feels like an event rather than a default, the anticipation before seeing you becomes part of the craving. People often forget that craving is heightened by contrast. If you're always right there, always available, the contrast between having you and not having you disappears. But if he sometimes feels the warmth of your presence and other times experiences the absence of it, he begins to truly feel the difference. The absence isn't a punishment, it's simply the natural rhythm of two independent people living full lives. That rhythm keeps him reaching out because he misses the feeling you bring. Energy is a big part of this equation. Your energy should never feel dependent on his mood. If he's tired or stressed, and you allow yourself to be pulled into that same energy, you become another source of heaviness. But if you can maintain your own grounded, vibrant state, you become the reset button he didn't know he needed. Over time, this creates a subconscious link between you and relief. Relief from the mundane, relief from pressure, relief from the world. That's the kind of association that keeps him coming back. Even subtle details like pacing matter. When you are in conversation, don't feel the need to fill every silence. Pauses can be powerful. They give him space to process what's happening, to feel the weight of your presence. In those moments of quiet, you're allowing his mind to wander, to think about you, to wonder what you're thinking, to feel the tension that builds in the absence of words. That tension, when held with confidence, is electric. Small rituals can also anchor you in his mind. Maybe it's the way you always greet him with a certain warmth, or the little inside jokes you build over time. These rituals create familiarity, and familiarity layered with desire becomes addictive. He'll start to notice when those moments are missing and will seek them out again. You must also resist the urge to overinvest too soon. Craving dies when one person pours in so much attention and energy that the other person feels there's nothing left to chase. Healthy attraction is a dance, and every dance needs space between the steps. When you match his investment or stay just slightly behind, it leaves him wanting to give more, to lean in further. It's not about withholding affection. It's about allowing the pace to naturally build so that anticipation becomes part of the experience. Another overlooked part of this is how you interact with the world outside of him. When he sees that you are kind to strangers, that you handle stress with grace, that you pursue your passions with focus, he's drawn to the consistency of your character. Attraction may begin with chemistry, but craving deepens when he admires who you are, and admiration is one of the most potent fuels for long-term desire. If you want to understand how this works in everyday life, think of the time someone unexpectedly crossed your mind. Maybe it was because they left a conversation just as it was getting good. Maybe it was because they introduced you to a new idea you couldn't stop thinking about. Or maybe it was because they made you feel something you hadn't felt in a long time. The specifics may fade, but the emotional fingerprint stays. Your aim is to leave those fingerprints small, unique, and unforgettable. And finally, you must know that the most irresistible presence comes from those who are anchored in their own value. If you are constantly scanning his reactions to measure your worth, you hand him all the power. But when you walk into every interaction already knowing your worth, when you've done the work to love yourself, to respect yourself, to build a life you're proud of, you stop needing to make him crave you. You simply become the kind of person whose presence is naturally craved. Because it's not about trying to prove you're special, it's about actually being special in a way that's undeniable, unshakable, and entirely yours. When you start to truly embody your own worth, something extraordinary happens. You stop chasing and instead you start attracting. The shift is almost invisible to the outside world, but internally it changes everything. You're no longer acting from a place of scarcity, hoping to convince someone to want you. You're moving through life with the quiet assurance that whoever sees your value will rise to meet it. That energy is irresistible because it communicates that you're not seeking permission to be desired. You're already desirable with or without anyone's acknowledgement. This kind of confidence can't be faked long term. It's born from consistently showing up for yourself, keeping promises to yourself, and living in alignment with your values. When you carry this kind of integrity, you radiate a steadiness that draws people in. You're not swayed by temporary approval or thrown off by temporary rejection, because your self-worth isn't held hostage by either. That steadiness is what makes someone crave your presence. It's a calm in the storm, a rare form of emotional security that is more addictive than drama will ever be. Part of making someone crave. Your presence is knowing when to pull your energy back, not as a punishment, but as a natural part of your self-care. There's power in having moments when you're fully engaged and moments when you retreat into your own world. That ebb and flow creates a rhythm they can feel but can't control. And it's that lack of control, not knowing exactly when they'll have access to your energy again, that keeps them hooked. You can amplify this effect by living in a state of constant growth. Be the person who's always learning something new, always exploring, always evolving. This isn't about being busy for the sake of it. It's about showing through your actions that you're a person in motion. People crave what feels alive, and when you're always expanding your horizons, you become a source of vitality that's hard to look away from. They start wondering what new perspective you'll have the next time they see you, what new story you'll tell, what new spark you'll bring. The beauty of this is that it takes the pressure off trying to perform for attention. Instead, you're simply living fully, and that fullness becomes magnetic. When they see you engaged in your passions, glowing with the satisfaction of doing things that matter to you, they feel drawn in. And the best part, you'd be doing it even if they weren't watching. That's what makes it real. There's also a subtlety to emotional teasing. Not in a manipulative way, but in the way you can create tiny doses of emotional tension that keep interactions charged. Maybe you share a look that lingers just a heartbeat too long before you turn away. Maybe you start a story and stop halfway, promising to finish it later. Maybe you give a compliment wrapped in a playful challenge. These small moments plant seeds in their mind that they can't help but revisit. Presence is not just about how you are when you're with someone, it's also about how you echo in their mind when you're not there. This is why you want to create moments that are rich with sensory anchors. The scent you wear, the tone of your voice, the texture of your laugh. These details become triggers for memory. They'll hear someone else's laugh in a cafe and be instantly reminded of you. They'll catch a whiff of your perfume in a crowd and feel a sudden rush of nostalgia. That's how you live rent-free in someone's mind without constant effort. The more you ground yourself in authenticity, the less you need to curate a perfect image. In fact, the little imperfections you embrace become part of your charm. Maybe it's the way you snort when you laugh too hard, or how you get overly animated when you're passionate about something. These quirks aren't flaws, they're the unique fingerprints of your personality. And the more unapologetically you own them, the more they become endearing hallmarks that no one else can replicate. To deepen the craving, you have to allow moments of vulnerability, not spilling every insecurity, but letting glimpses of your humanity show. Maybe you share a personal story that reveals depth and openness. Maybe you admit when you're nervous about something but push forward anyway. Vulnerability is powerful because it creates emotional intimacy, and emotional intimacy is what transforms attraction into something far more compelling. A lot of people misunderstand mystery. They think it means being cold or withholding. True mystery isn't about keeping people at a distance. It's about revealing yourself in a way that invites curiosity. It's the art of letting someone feel like they're uncovering you, layer by layer, rather than being handed the entire blueprint from the start. This slow reveal builds anticipation, and anticipation is the heartbeat of craving. Don't underestimate the influence of contrast in your presence. If you're always light-hearted, show moments of thoughtfulness. If you're often serious, let your playful side slip through. Oh, people remember those contrasts because they reveal dimension. A one-dimensional presence is easy to predict and easy to forget. But a multi-dimensional one keeps people on their toes, eager to see what version of you they'll encounter next. Another element that fuels desire is your ability to leave a conversation at its peak. Imagine sharing a connection so electric that they're hanging on every word, and then you gracefully excuse yourself. You leave them with a feeling, not just a memory. That lingering sense of I want more is one of the most powerful tools you have, and it works best when you're brave enough not to overstay your welcome in any moment. When you do re-enter their world after some space, bring fresh energy. Don't come back recycling the same stories or moods as before. Let them see that in your time away you've lived, you've learned, you've grown. Every reunion should feel like an upgrade, like they're reconnecting with someone who's even more captivating than they remembered. This not only keeps the attraction alive, it deepens it because they realize that the more they know you, the more there is to want. It's worth mentioning that the craving you inspire in others is often a reflection of the craving you have for your own life. If you're constantly seeking excitement, depth, and beauty in your own experiences, that hunger radiates outward. You become a person who's not just waiting to be chosen, you're actively choosing life every day. And people are naturally drawn to those who are in love with living. Your boundaries are a huge part of your presence. Knowing when to say yes and when to say no shows that you value yourself. And nothing is more compelling than someone who values themselves enough to walk away from what doesn't serve them. This self-respect isn't just attractive, it's contagious. People will want to be around you because they can feel that being in your orbit requires them to show up as their best selves. Finally, the most magnetic people understand this. Presence isn't a performance, it's an extension of how they live when no one's watching. The reason some people can walk into a room and turn heads without trying is because the energy they bring is genuine. They've cultivated it in the quiet moments, in the way they care for themselves, in the way they engage with life, even when there's no audience. That's why it resonates so deeply. It's not an act, it's who they are.